won't work. So the patient who was having fear that he may fail in an exam, so that is Bhayajati Sara. So the treatment is not to the Agni, Koshta or Ama actually. The treatment is to the psychology here. So identify what exactly the cause. Is it the stress? Is it the food? Is it the genetic factor? Is it the lifestyle? Is it the absence of sleep? Is it the radiation? What exactly is the cause of the disease? You are supposed to identify, and then only you can treat the disease properly. The nidana for understand the severity of the disease. You're supposed to know whether, because sometimes patient will have small symptom, but patient will cry as if he is having a very, very severe disease. It has happened. So patient came screaming a lot, but it is just a small insect bite or something. That's it. So, but the patient expresses as if a very grave symptoms are there, disease are there. Not really. At the same time, there are some patients who are very, very tolerant and who are very good sattva bala, but have a very, very major issue, but it won't be expressed outside. They won't show that they're having that much pain because they are having such a strong sattva bala. But within, they are quite sick, quite sick. So this is, but if you do the pariksha properly, both inside as well as outside, using all the tools of diagnosis, it is possible for you to differentiate Guru Vyadi as well as Lagu Vyadi. Nidana as assessment criteria, that is the third point. So always you will come to know whether your medicines has worked properly or not. You will take the parameter of Lakshana or Rupa, parameter of laboratory or laboratory reports. Before treatment it was this much, after treatment it is this much. Before treatment the patient had these many symptoms, now symptoms are not there. Before treatment the blood report was like this, after it is like this. So you all assess it based on Roga Nidana subject. So assessment criteria is fully based on Roga Nidana. Naming a disease. If the patient is having bleeding per nose, bleeding per mouth, bleeding in the ear or anywhere, we diagnose it as Rakta Pitta. If the patient is suffering from pain, we name it as Shula. If the person is suffering from low backache, where the gait of the person is just like a vulture, we name it as Gridrasi. So we can name a disease if you have a Roga Nidana knowledge or Roga Nidana information. Please note the second point. Roga Nidana says if a treatment is complete or not. So you may give right prescription to the patient. Patient has gone, but whether the treatment is complete or not, you should know it. One very good example I'll tell you. All of you have apart from krimi. Okay, krimi, worms, intestinal worms. Remember, the krimis that are inside your body, if it is dying inside your body, it is not the end of treatment. You have taken krimi kotara rasa, nimbarishta, kampilaka churna, okay, all that is okay. The krimis have died. Okay, that is not the end of the story, because the dead krimis will undergo a process called as decaying, and they release lot of enterotoxins. And these enterotoxins are having high histamines in the body, and they may give you rashes, excessive salivation, breathing discomfort, too much of salivation, and all those skin issues, itching of the eyes, falling of hair, and GIT related symptoms. It will give a lot of problems. So what you should do after giving chikitsa to the krimi, you should give one shodhana, one virechana, or one at least one anulomana you should give, because the worms that are dead should not remain inside the body. The worms that are dead should be eliminated outside the body, because dead bodies always decay. And krimis are macroscopic, not microscopic. They are not like microbes. That is the difference between parasite as well as a microbe. So krimi here in this, what I'm talking is refers to elements or parasites. So they are multicellular organisms. They are macroscopic. Sometimes they are long, slender. Sometimes it is longer than human. Like tapeworm and all are very, very long. Okay, so that is why you are supposed to do the complete treatment, even though you have given the right choice of prescription, but see that it is effectively acting inside the body of the patient. Not all medicines will act in the same way in everybody. Every one of us show different kinds of expression of our body. Okay, so you are supposed to see it very well. So that tells you whether the treatment is complete or not. Now coming to this point, it compels you to treat the patient, not the report. Listen carefully. I'm going to give you a small example for this, dear students. There was a patient, this happened in SDM Udupi long years ago. So Dr. Muralidhar Sharma, he has treated this patient. I'm very glad because I have seen that happening there. So I'm sharing this knowledge to you, experience to you. So there was a patient who was admitted in a well-known, reputed modern hospital. I'm not denying that modern hospital. So she was suffering from a cancer, 86-year-old lady. She was suffering from terminal stages of cancer. She was almost in the last stage. So delirium, no conscious, nothing. So she was on a life support, and she was suffering from massive growth in the abdomen. So one large mass was there. And as she is quite old, so surgery was also contraindicated. She was diabetic and she had multiple problems. And doctor said it is not right to treat her, even though if you do surgery, chemotherapy, she is unable to survive for a long time, better take her. And even family members also thought, oh, let us not trouble her more during her last days. So they took her from hospital. Meanwhile, okay, anyway, she's alive, let us try some in this hospital. So the patient was taken to this hospital where Dr. Muruga Sharma, she was treated. So what he did was, so the mass which was there in her abdomen was causing obstruction to the movement of everything, flatters or feces or whatever. Because of that, there was huge distension in the abdomen. So what he did was, he did surgery, he opened it. He didn't cut the mass. He took the mass, he wrapped it with omentum, and he put it in the corner, and there he sutured it to the one wall of the abdomen, and he cleared the obstruction whichever was there for this. So once he did it, all that obstruction which was there, all got cleared. So fluid flew properly, flatters, feces, everything went well. Then distension came down, breathing was comfortable, circulation was better, and she survived. She survived. So according to the report, yes, the mass is still there. She's still a cancer patient. She is old lady. Anytime she can die. Don't know. According to the lab report, she is still sick. But according to the patient, Apta, what we call patients are Apta, that's why we say, she was totally almost in a coma stage. She got up, she started walking, she started eating. And the patient, this happened in a seminar, international seminar. It was malignancy of Mahagadha. That was the occasion. And sir brought that patient to the stage. Everybody saw her. That's why seeing is not believing. She survived. So no hopes at all. She went home. She survived. She's independent. She can walk. She can eat. She's like anybody else. So now he didn't treat the report. He treated the patient. That's why her livelihood was better. So this is what it says. It is a yukti of a physician. It was not then. Everybody asked, now what line of treatment was there? Which textbook told you should do that? No textbook told about that. That's what Sir said. No textbook said about this method. I just tried it based on the yukti, or because obstruction, sangha was the main problem in her. I removed that sangha. Okay, and that sangha is cleared now. So that is why she is finding much better. But how long? I don't know. But as of now, she is healthy. She is improving. She says there is no problem at all. There is no shula, no vibandha, no udara, no shwasakrichirata. Fine, then what else we want? If she is happy, if patient is happy, that's it. So that is a biggest certificate rather than any of these things. So this is what I am going to tell you. So treat the patient, not the report. So if the patient is finding better, patient's quality of life is improved, there is nothing big achievement than that. So for all this, you need the support from this concept of Roga Nidana, a sincere request to all the students over here. So don't ignore any subjects, any subject in this curriculum. But Roga Nidana will be taking you to all other subjects, will be guiding you to all other subjects which you're going to learn in near future. So with this, I line up. I wish everybody all the very best. And moreover, even though sometimes you may find difficulty in studying these things, please look into the patient, visit hospital, take help of your senior doctors or your teachers, go rounds with them, cultivate the habit of patient examination right now. You will become a better doctor, great doctor. So just understand the disease. Most 90% of the work you have already done. So you are supposed to get experience. Don't worry that, will I be able to do it? No, don't worry. All that we have faced, we do face problems initially, but take guidance from your teachers, but don't stop practicing. Start practicing, continue practicing, and keep practicing. With this, I line up. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for your listening.
Thank you, ma'am. A number of questions have been raised by the delegates. So can we now move on to the question answer session?
Sure.
Okay, ma'am. The first question that was asked was, can you please explain the pathology of COVID-19 in the lights of Roganidana as well as Kriya Kala?
Pathology of
COVID-19.
COVID-19. Okay. Okay. So
Pathology of COVID-19 in the lights of Roganidana as well as Kriya Kala.
well, same. I will take it to the description of two aspects. One is Janapadodvamsa, where pandemic or epidemics have been told, and not just external factors like Dushtavata or this Dushtajala. There is influence of cosmic effects also, where Chandra, Surya, Nakshatra, Graha all having an influence. So when these cosmic placements are there, the rays that passes through these placements will do influence human body, and pandemics are one among them. I'm not telling COVID exactly. Any pandemics can be because of influence of cosmic effects also. First point, and another one is because of Dushta Vayu, Dushta Jala, okay, as well as resources of plant as well as animal kingdom. That is Dushta in case of Ahara. So Ahara also will undergo Dushti. So right now for COVID, we can say it is because of Dushta Vayu, because in the Vayu, this microbes will be there, and these microbes, when they are inhaled, it reaches the pranavasrutas once. So through the pranavasrutas, when it is inhaled inside, again it will find the kavaigunya. That's what, if already the patient is having kavaigunya in the pufusa or lung, the symptoms will be severe. There will be hikka, shwasa, kasa. The patient will go for severe kind of shwasa krichita, and there can be fatality if at all, if the kavaigunya is there in the pranavasrutas. And now if the patient is having kavaigunya in the GIT, there once again, the same Vishavayu, when it enters the lungs, from lungs when it reaches the heart, and from heart when it reaches systemic circulation, if it is reaching the GIT, so there the patient will show symptoms of Atisara, Vamana, or Vrillasa, like that. So like this, symptoms will differ from person to person, where a person's kavaigunya, if it is in respiratory system, will show pranavasruta dushti. If it is in annavasrutas, if the patient will show these kinds of symptoms of agnimandya daurbalya. And then overall, the jwara is present in any kind of disease, because this entry of Vishavayu will provoke the production of ama. So because of production of ama, there will be manifestation of jwara, and jwara is again, we are talking about difference in the levels of jwara in different patients. Once again, if the Vyadik Shamatva is good, the jwara will be mild to moderate. If the Vyadik Shamatva is burst or Vyadik Shamatva is low, the jwara will be very high, and that also can increase the fatality as well as morbidity of the patient. So this I can say with reference to COVID-19, with reference to Visha of Vata causing Janapadodvamsa.
Thank you, ma'am. The next question is, can Kavaigunya determine Manasika doshas also?
Yes, definitely. So
Can Kavaigunya?
Yeah. Kavaigunya can also determine, because as I told you, the pariksha, whenever we examine the patient, it is not just the structural deformity that is present in the body. It is psychological. Timid mind also can invite many various problems. If at all, if there is no presence of structural deformity, if psychologically the patient is having this kind of feeling, then we can say Kavaigunya is present in the thought process of the patient. So he is having less sattva bala, or sattva bala is less. So we can say manasika factors will influence in this patient who are having less sattva bala. Yes, kavaigunya can be present there also. Most of the 90% of the references say that kavaigunya is related to structural deformity, but I feel personally, after long this practice, we can say manasika is also involved. Yes.
Okay, ma'am. The next question is, how to identify the dosha dushya stage? It is asymptomatic. Then how to prevent the disease? Hello,
well, I got it. So in case of that dosha samurchana, what I told, no, yes, of course, it is not at all possible for you to identify if at all, if you do pariksha, not at all possible. It can happen in micro level, microscopic level, or in that form which is not at all visible. In this condition, it is not at all possible for you to identify dosha dosha samurchana and prevent the disease. Identifying dosha dosha samurchana and preventing the disease is not possible, but at the outright you are supposed to increase your vyadik shamatva, assuming that vyadik shamatva will resist all kinds of dosha dosha samurchana. Otherwise, no, clinically or any devices will not be able to find out dosha dosha samurchana at all, not possible. Certainly, maybe if at all, if you are good in nadi pariksha, if at all, if you are good in that kind of investigation, where you have some vriddhi kshaya lakshanas that are told in basic dosha dosha vijnana, that can give you a subtle idea that yes, doshas are in the state of vriddhi as well as kshaya. There can be disease anytime in coming days. That will give you a hint. So dosha, dosha, vriddhi as well as kshaya lakshana will give you a hint of dosha, dosha, samurchana.
Okay, ma'am. The next site will it always lead to armature?
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah.
Ma'am, by the lodging of ama in a particular site, will it always lead to amaja vyadi or can nirama vyadi also develop?
No, no, no. First of all, if it is amaja, ama has lodged always and always. Amaja vyadi, ama manifestation is first. Ama in association with dosha, ama in association with dhatu, ama in association with mala, ama in association with vyadi. So it is always sama vyadi until and unless it is abhigata javikara, until and unless it is bahya vikara, ama is always there in all nija vikaras. All nija vyadis, ama is definitely there.
Okay, ma'am. The next question is, what are the diagnostic tests done for ama?
Okay, diagnostic. Okay, apart from clinical investigation with reference to assessment of appetite, assessment of stool pattern, assessment of digestion, assessment of sleep will tell you the clinical presence or absence. Presence or absence of jara, mild or moderate or severe, will tell you the presence of ama. In laboratory investigations, if you want me to say precisely, in mutra, if you find protein in the urine, avila mutrata, so that tells you the presence of ama. Raised ESR levels in the blood will tell you the presence of ama. So ESR, according to modern science, says that there is some inflammation happening in the body. But what kind of inflammation? ESR doesn't say. ESR says some inflammation is occurring. So just like in case of Ayurveda also, ama is there, some disease is occurring. What disease is occurring? Further, you are supposed to do the investigation. So we can correlate ama with directly with that of ESR levels according to modern science.
Okay, ma'am. The next question is, hello?
Yeah, yeah.
Khavaigunya is one of the nidana for all the disease. We have been taught in college days for Roga Pradurbhava, Dosha Prakopa and Agni Vaigunya due to Nidana Sevana are the main reason. But what is the case of Khavaigunya? Because for Sanchaya of Dosha, Khavaigunya is important. Please put some light on this, ma'am.
Sure. See, doshas it is a habit of dosha to undergo fluctuation. Vriddhi, kshaya will happen otherwise also, even though even in your healthy state also, fluctuation of dosha will be there. A little increase of vata, a little decrease in kapha happens every day. So sometimes we'll be happy, sometimes we'll be hyperactive, sometimes we'll be dull, sometimes we'll be in the resting phase. It's common. Sometimes we are lethargic. We all have that. All that is because of fluctuation of dosha. So little fluctuation of dosha within the physiological limit happens. When the disease happens is fluctuation of dosha beyond the physiological limits plus kavaigunya. So if at all, if kavaigunya is not there, dosha will keep on fluctuating and person will be little bit unwell, but he'll come back to normal very soon without any intervention or without any treatment. But if kavaigunya is there and if dosha goes to that kavaigunya pradesha, then vyadi is 100% possible and then treatment is definitely essential, that too from the bishop. If kavaigunya is not there, even though dosha vriddhi kshaya happens, there will be no vyadi, just there will be slightest deviation from health, that's all, which will be soon coming back to normal without any intervention. Kavaigunya definitely produces a disease.
Okay, ma'am. The next question is how to differentiate and understand Sira Granthi and Sanga Strotodushti.
Okay, so Sira Granthi, the network of blood vessels, if there is any torsion, if there is again, once again, conditions like aneurysm, if there is any severe constriction, that you can go with the Sira Granthi, where only network of blood vessels are involved. In case of Sangha, not only blood vessels, it can be colon, it can be any tube, tubular structures like bronchial tube, it can be esophagus, it can be intestine, any tubular structure or any hollow organ, if at all, if it is blocked, that comes under Sangha. So Sangha is a generalized form for any kind of tubular structures. If there is any obstruction happens, you can call it as Sangha. So that may involve bronchial pipe, that can involve esophageal pipe, that can involve any ducts, that can involve any passage, and that can involve any canal, that can involve any column. So anything, it can be muscular, it can be tubular. Okay, so all that is coming for Sangha. But if it is something related to the blood vessels, torsion of blood vessels, that only refers to Sira Granthi. So this is the difference between Sira Granthi as well as Sangha. Sangha can happen in any tubular structures, but Sira Granthi happens only with reference to the blood vessels. That's it.
Okay, ma'am. The next question is what do we call cell in Ayurveda?
Okay, there are a lot of things where Kana is there, told by Kana the Maharshi. So he was the first person to talk about this microscopic structures. Jivanu, Paramanu, Vishanu, as well as Kana. These are the different names given for the cell, where Vishanu we correlate to that of cell, again cell only, but microorganisms, those which are unicellular and those which are infectious. For that we use the word uh, Vishanu. A living cell, we use the word Jivanu. So cell can be correlated to the Jivanu because life is there. Otherwise, if you are talking about a molecule or an atom, then the word Kana is better. So if you really want to know what exactly is cell in Ayurveda, my answer is Jivanu. Jiva plus Anu, Jivanu. The life inside an atom makes a cell, that is Jivanu.
Okay, ma'am. The next question is how to diagnose embolism, thrombus, and hemorrhagic pakshagatam with reference to dosha involvement.
Yes, yes, fine. It is very important also because many times if it is just transient ischemic attack, the Pakshagata is temporary. So just treatment, simple treatments will bring back the life of the patient completely to normal. But there are some patients where Pakshagata cannot be cured at all. So everybody think that if you give massage to the body, then Pakshagata will be healed. No, 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 no. So Pakshagata is different for different individuals. So people who are having transient ischemic attacks, they will be having this. Now the problem is how to identify. In case now that it is because, as you said, it is because of three reasons. One is thrombosis, embolism, as well as cerebral hemorrhage. It entirely depends upon the brain tissue where how long the infarction has occurred. So cerebral infarction. What is infarction? Loss of oxygen supply to the cell. And you know very well, brain is a very, very sensitive organ. Even a slightest deviation of oxygen, deprivation of oxygen can bring infarction to the brain. And infarction will convert into necrosis, where that portion of the brain will be completely dead. It is not possible for you to bring back that part of life of that part of the brain. In this condition, the Pakshagata is permanent. You cannot bring back the strength of the person's bala back. It is lost permanently. So in case of embolism, if at all, if the infarction has reached the stage of necrosis where the brain tissues are dead, then it is not possible for you to cure. So embolism, if it is regressed back, so as soon as embolism has occurred, as soon as the Pakshagata has occurred, but you have taken the patient to the hospital in the right time, where embolism is dissolved and circulation is enhanced and the blood reaches to the place which is deprived of oxygen, and if you maintain the circulation, don't allow the cell to kill, yes, it is possible for you to cure such patients. So here embolism is on to dissolving. Thrombosis, for that you are supposed to do some investigation with reference to blood count. So especially bleeding time as well as clotting time. So in case where the bleeding time, especially the clotting time, okay, so if the clotting time is reduced, okay, so that means the clots are produced, and then number of platelets. If the platelet counts are very high in the patient, so that will give the tendency for thrombosis. So in this condition also thrombosis can happen, and soon, if at all, if the patient is given anticoagulant injection, especially aspirin, if you just give, that clot will be melted and then circulation is brought back and then blood will reach the place where it has reached. Infarction has not yet occurred. Ischemia has occurred, but infarction has not occurred. We can still save the life of the patient. The point is, cerebral ischemia should not progress to cerebral infarction to happen this. So if the time taken from ischemia to infarction is very crucial. In between ischemia to infarct, if you have interrupted, you can save the patient's life from getting into pakshagata. If you have taken too long, where ischemia has landed up in infarction, then it is too late. So test for the complete blood count, especially the platelet, the bleeding time as well as clotting time, as well as the patient's cholesterol levels, as well as finally the MRI of the patient to see how much area is infarcted, whether it is just infarcted or whether ischemia has already occurred. That gives you the prognosis. So if infarction has already occurred, that gives in the MRI report. So in the MRI report, if ischemia, infarction has already occurred, no, it is not possible. If only it is just ischemia, then you have chance to cure the patient. So MRI is essential to find out this.
Okay, ma'am. The next question is, how can we diagnose the Kavaigunya of a specific scrotus?
Well, I must say, before the Vyadhi has manifested, it may not be possible. In some countries, they do this investigation to find out this problem. So they do complete genetic mapping and they find which particular gene they have in their blood and which kind of disease they are prone to. So there are something called as a cancer inhibitor gene as well as cancer suppressor gene. If this gene is there in the body, the patient will never suffer from disease, never suffer from cancer at all. So if at all, if the patient has got a gene that is promoting the diabetes, even though he has taken good care of himself, diabetes will anyhow come to his body. So that means in his gene level itself, there is presence of diabetic factors. That means Kavaigunya is already described. So genetic mapping helps you to find what exactly the patient can suffer from a disease. This is according to modern science. If you want me to say in Ayurvedic science, what way we have, we can say Prakriti assessment. So Vata Prakriti person will have the tendency to develop more amount of neurological disorder as well as disorder related to Asti as well as Sandhi. So Vata Prakriti people will have tendency to develop. So Kavaigunya will be obviously present in Asti, Sandhi as well as Pakvashaya. In case of Pitta Prakriti people, Kavaigunya is obviously present in Grahini Pradesha as well as Pachamanashaya. They may have sensitive skin. They may have sensitive biochemistry in their blood levels. They may have high immunoglobulins. They may have hypersensitivity reactions, as well as they may have tendency to develop amla pitta or hyperacidity or duodenal or peptic ulcers more. So that is the Kavaigunya. They will have the defective parts in the body in that region only. That's why their Prakriti is about. Again, Kapha dosha. So they have their weak part of their body is Uras. Uras is their Kavaigunya there. So Medo Dhatu will have tendency to increase in them. So Staulya is a probable consequence of Kapha Prakriti. Shwasa, Chardi, all these are probable diseases. So Prakriti assessment can help you to find your Kavaigunya in Ayurveda science, whereas genetic mapping will help you to find out defective gene in your body in case of modern science.
Thank you, ma'am, for a thought-provoking session about the concept of Nidana in Chikitsa. I'd like to invite Dr. Devi, ma'am, to deliver the oath of thanks.
Honorable Principal, faculty, students, and other enthusiasts, it's a great opportunity to thank the multi-talented, exemplary personality, my beloved guide and teacher, Dr. Nisha Kumari, for her inspirational speech. As expected, she enlightened thought process of all listeners. I would also like to thank her for propagating Ayurveda with her Roganidana and Vikriti Vijnana textbooks and a new venture in YouTube, The Rhythm, which analyzes dance and its different effects on body. May God bless her with all success for her continued contribution to this field. I would also like to thank each and everyone present in this session and made it a great success. Thank you.
Thank you, Devi.
Thank you, ma'am. With that, we come to the end of the session of Samsiddhi 2020.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We hope that you all had an informative session. The third web conference of Samsiddhi 2020 will be conducted on the 20th of July from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. with Dr. Anantaram Sharma on the topic Practical Considerations in Vamana Karma. Thank you all the guests and delegates for joining with us today. For all the updates on our upcoming sessions, stay connected with us in all our social media. Thank you all once again. Wish you all have a great evening ahead. Thank you.
Have a nice evening. Thank you.